The house was unusually still that afternoon. I pushed the bedroom door open with my shoulder, still humming the tune that had followed me from the grocery store. The sunlight filtered through the curtains in slow, golden stripes, falling across the bed. And that's when I saw it. A faint glimmer. Something small, almost shy, nestled between the sheets. A bracelet. Gold. Elegant. Definitely not mine. I picked it up carefully, turning it in my hand. It was beautiful, thin, delicate, the kind of piece that whispered wealth and intention. But what caught me wasn't its beauty. It was the scent. A trace of perfume clung to it, soft and floral, like jasmine. My stomach tightened. Daniel's sister wore citrus perfume. Sharp, tangy. Nothing like this. This one smelled romantic, private, like something meant to be remembered. "Daniel?" I called out, my voice echoing through the quiet house. "Did you buy this for me?" He answered from the kitchen, distracted, the clinking of dishes filling the silence between us. "What?" I walked toward him, the bracelet dangling from my fingers. This bracelet. It was in our bed. He froze, just for a second, before smiling too easily. "Oh, that? My sister's. She must have left it when she visited last weekend." I stood there watching him, the way his hand hesitated for half a heartbeat before reaching for a towel. The way his eyes flicked toward me, then quickly back to the sink. He kept smiling, trying to make it all sound casual. "You know how she is," he said, laughing lightly. "Always leaving her things everywhere." I forced a smile back, but something in me went quiet, that kind of silence that hums right behind your ribs. I nodded, pretending to believe him, but my mind was already taking notes. His sister hadn't even gone upstairs that weekend. She'd stayed in the living room, chatting over coffee, never once crossing that line into our bedroom. And yet, there I was, holding a bracelet that didn't belong to me, or to anyone who should have been in our bed. I placed it on the dresser like it might burn me if I kept holding it. He went back to whatever he was doing, humming now, like nothing happened, but I couldn't stop glancing at the bracelet. Its small golden loop caught the light in a way that almost mocked me. It smelled like another life. Another woman. I tried to shake it off, to believe his story, but every time I breathed in, that jasmine scent filled the room again. And deep down, I already knew. Something had shifted. That night, I couldn't bring myself to put the bracelet away. It sat there on my nightstand, reflecting every flicker of the bedside lamp like it was alive. Daniel talked about work, the neighbors, a game he'd watched. His words floated around me, meaningless noise. I nodded at the right moments, but inside, I was replaying that brief pause in his voice, that smile that came a second too late. When he finally turned off the light and drifted into sleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The smell of jasmine still lingered, faint but stubborn, like a ghost refusing to leave. I thought about asking again in the morning, but what would be the point? He'd already built his lie. Neat, convenient, with his sister's name stamped on top of it. And I'd smiled, letting him think I'd swallowed it whole. My fingers brushed against the bracelet once more before I turned away. It was cold now, colder than before, like it carried the chill of truth beneath its shine. Something told me this wasn't over, that it was only the beginning. And as I finally closed my eyes, I didn't feel hurt yet, just alert, like someone who's seen a shadow move and is waiting for it to return. Sleep never came easily that night. I lay there listening to the rhythm of Daniel's breathing, steady, careless, almost insulting in its peace. My eyes kept drifting toward the nightstand, where the bracelet caught the faint glow of the lamp like it was watching me back. Every detail replayed in my mind. The pause, the tone, the smell. That damn jasmine wouldn't let me rest. It was like the scent itself was whispering the truth I didn't want to hear. I turned over, trying to reason with myself. Maybe he was right. Maybe his sister really had wandered upstairs, though that made no sense. My heart and my mind were at war. One begging me to sleep, the other refusing to shut up. I knew that feeling too well. It's the one that comes before every discovery you wish you'd never make. My hand reached for my phone before I could stop myself. I scrolled to Sophie's number, Daniel's sister, and hesitated. The clock read 12:43 a.m. It felt wrong to call, invasive even, but the truth doesn't wait for polite hours. My thumb hovered, my breath shallow. Then I pressed call. The ringtone felt endless, each second louder than the last, until her sleepy voice broke through. "Clara? Is everything okay?" "Sorry for calling so late," I whispered, already regretting it, though not enough to hang up. "I just wanted to ask, did you leave a bracelet here when you came over last weekend?" There was a pause, the kind where you can hear someone waking up, shifting, trying to make sense of a question that doesn't belong at midnight. "Bracelet," she said slowly. "I haven't worn bracelets in months. Why?" My heart started thudding in that dull, predictable rhythm of confirmation. "Daniel said you left one," I managed, my voice too steady for what I felt. "Gold, with tiny pearls." Another silence, longer this time, heavier. Then Sophie's voice sharpened, confusion turning into concern. "Clara? I wasn't even in your bedroom. Why would he say that?" I didn't answer right away. I was staring at the bracelet, still on the nightstand, glowing faintly like it had heard every word. The lie was exposed, small but fatal, like a thread pulled from a perfect seam. "That's what I was wondering," I said quietly. We exchanged a few polite goodbyes, but neither of us believed the calmness in our voices. When I hung up, the air in the room felt different, heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. After I hung up, I just sat there for a while, staring at nothing. The silence was deafening, the kind that makes you aware of your own breathing. Daniel slept beside me, one arm sprawled carelessly across the bed, as if nothing in the world could touch him. I looked at him and wondered how many times he'd lied like that, effortlessly, like it cost him nothing. The bracelet shimmered in the lamplight, mocking the space between us. I picked it up again, turning it over between my fingers. The scent had faded now, softer, but it still clung to the metal like a secret refusing to die. I thought about Sophie's voice, confused, genuine, and about his. How easily he'd used her name to cover his tracks. That was the part that hurt the most. Not the lie itself, but the ease with which he dragged someone innocent into it. I placed the bracelet back on the nightstand and switched off the light. But the darkness didn't offer comfort. It felt like the beginning of something. A crack forming, small but unstoppable. My mind stopped searching for explanations and started building questions instead. Who was she? How long had it been? And why, of all places, had he left a piece of her in our bed? For the next few days, I played my part flawlessly. I laughed at Daniel's stories, cooked his favorite meals, even kissed him goodnight as if nothing had changed. It was easier than I expected, pretending. It gave me time to watch him, to notice things I'd ignored before. The new shirt that smelled faintly of perfume. The way he glanced at his phone and smiled when he thought I wasn't looking. Lies have a rhythm, I realized, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Every detail became a clue. I'd catch him humming in the shower, that same light tune he always used when he was hiding something. My instincts sharpened with every small discovery. I wasn't angry yet. Not the kind of anger that burns. Mine was cold, deliberate. I wasn't going to scream or cry or throw plates. No, I wanted the truth. And I wanted to hold it in my hands before he even realized I was looking. That's when I remembered the jewelry store downtown, the one where he'd bought my anniversary necklace last year. Daniel wasn't imaginative. If he'd bought this bracelet, he'd gone there again. So one afternoon, I told him I had errands to run, put on my calmest smile, and drove straight to the place where his lies might finally have a receipt. The bell above the jewelry store door chimed softly as I walked in. The air smelled faintly of polish and perfume. Expensive, rehearsed. A young clerk behind the counter looked up and smiled. I could tell he recognized me, though he couldn't quite place where from. I placed the bracelet gently on the glass display and said, "I was wondering if you could tell me where this was bought." My voice sounded calm, almost detached, like I'd rehearsed this moment in my head for days. He examined it closely, turning it under the light. "Beautiful piece," he said, then frowned slightly as he flipped through a small digital record book. "Yes, this one was purchased here about a month ago." I felt my pulse in my ears, a low, steady thud. "By whom?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He looked up after a moment, polite and professional. "Daniel Wright, paid in cash, gift-wrapped." There it was, simple, undeniable. My name didn't need to be on the receipt. My absence was loud enough. I asked one more question quietly. "Did he say who it was for?" The clerk smiled, oblivious. "His girlfriend, I believe." "He said she loves delicate jewelry." The word girlfriend landed softly, like a feather and a blade all at once. I thanked him, managed a smile, and left before my hands could start shaking. I walked out of the store into the sharp afternoon light. The world looked the same, but something inside me had shifted, like a lock clicking open. I gripped my purse tightly as I crossed the street, my knuckles white against the leather. The words "his girlfriend" kept echoing in my head, steady and cruel. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel shock. It was more like standing in cold water, still, numb, waiting for the chill to reach my bones. I drove home in silence, letting the city blur around me. Every red light felt like a moment to breathe, to not fall apart. I replayed everything. The hesitation in his voice, the fake laugh, the lie about his sister. It all connected now, neat and perfect, like puzzle pieces I'd been too trusting to see before. I realized something then. Betrayal doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, smiles, and hands you dinner like nothing's wrong. When I parked in front of the house, I sat there for a long time, staring at the front door. The home we'd built, the bed we'd shared, the life I'd believed in, all of it now felt like a set, a stage for someone else's love story, but I wasn't going to confront him yet. No, not until I had everything. Truth, proof, and control. Because if there was one thing I'd learned from Daniel, it was how to act. And this time, I'd give the performance of my life. I spent the whole afternoon in the kitchen, pretending it was just another evening. The scent of searing steak filled the air, mixing with garlic and rosemary. I opened a bottle of wine, his favorite, and set the table with candles, soft music, everything that screamed romance. It wasn't forgiveness I was serving, it was control. He walked in, smiling, loosening his tie like a man who thought the world still belonged to him. "Wow," he said, glancing around. "What's the occasion?" I smiled, my tone light, almost teasing. "I just felt like celebrating us." He kissed my cheek, clueless. As he sat down, I placed the bracelet beside his plate, shining under the candlelight. For a moment, he didn't notice it. Then his eyes landed on it, and I saw it. The flicker. The smallest tremor in his smile before he forced out a laugh. "Still holding on to that thing?" he said, picking it up between his fingers. "I told you it's Sophie's." My voice came out softer than I expected, steady but sharp underneath. "Yes," I said. "I called her." He froze, glass halfway to his lips. The silence between us was almost elegant, thick, heavy, and precise. Like the pause before a blade falls. He blinked at me, trying to recover, but his face betrayed him. A flash of panic before the charm returned. She must have forgotten, he said too quickly. Maybe. I cut him off, calm but deliberate. I also went to the jewelry store downtown, I said. The one where you bought it. The salesman remembered you. His throat tightened. I could see the pulse in his neck jump. He said you told him it was for your girlfriend. The word hung between us like smoke, slow, visible, poisonous. Daniel didn't speak right away. He just stared at me, wineglass still in his hand, his lips parting as if words might save him. Clara, listen, he finally stammered. It's not what you think. I tilted my head slightly. It never is it? My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The truth was loud enough. He set the glass down too hard, the stem cracking under his grip. His face was pale now, his eyes darting, not searching for forgiveness, but for a lie that might still work. I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table. Receipts, messages, screenshots, all neatly arranged. Proof doesn't need emotion, just silence. You can give this back to her, I said. I'm sure she'll appreciate your taste. For a long moment, he didn't move. His fingers hovered over the envelope like it might burn him. The only sound in the room was the faint crackle of the candles. I watched him open it, his eyes scanning each page, the receipts from the hotel, the text messages I'd printed, the same bracelet that had started it all. His face went slack, then desperate. Clara, please, he whispered. I can explain. I stood slowly, steadying myself on the back of the chair. You've done enough explaining, I said. You lied. You used your sister's name. You brought another woman's perfume into my bed. He looked small then, smaller than I'd ever seen him, clutching his own betrayal in shaking hands. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then, I remembered the way he'd smiled that first day, pretending nothing was wrong. I turned toward the stairs, my heels clicking softly against the floor. You can finish dinner, I said without looking back. It's your favorite. And I walked away, past the candlelight, past the smell of steak now gone bitter in the air. I didn't slam the door or raise my voice. I just let silence have the last word. Because sometimes silence is louder than forgiveness could ever be. The next morning, the house felt different. Still the same walls, same furniture, but the air had changed, heavier, sharper, like it knew. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, untouched, listening to the faint creak of the stairs as Daniel came down. His face was pale, his eyes swollen from a night spent rehearsing apologies. He stood there in silence for a moment before speaking. Please, Clara, he said quietly. It was a mistake. She meant nothing. Mistake. That word again. So small, so cowardly. I looked at him and felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, just an empty space where love used to live. You lied to my face, I said calmly. You used your sister's name to cover for another woman. That's not a mistake, Daniel. That's who you are. He reached for me, but I pulled back. The distance between us wasn't just physical anymore. It was permanent. We can fix this, he said, his voice breaking. I almost laughed. You fix cars, Daniel, not people. I stood up, pushing my chair back slowly. And I'm not something that needs repairing. He looked at me like a man drowning, but I'd already learned how to breathe without him. I went upstairs, packed a single suitcase, and left before the coffee even cooled. I met with my lawyer that afternoon. She didn't ask for explanations. Maybe she saw it all in my face. I laid everything out on her desk, the receipts, the messages, the timeline. Proof of everything I'd refused to believe. Her eyes softened when she looked at me. You've already done the hardest part, she said. You stopped pretending. Within a week, the divorce papers were drafted, clean and professional. No drama, no begging, just an ending wrapped in precision. Daniel tried to talk to me, of course. Calls, texts, even showing up outside my lawyer's office one morning with that look, guilt dressed as love. I didn't respond. Silence became my armor. It unnerved him more than rage ever could. He wanted chaos. He wanted a scene. I gave him nothing, just calm efficiency and signatures in black ink. But revenge isn't always found in what you take. Sometimes it's in what you give back. So I gave something back. The hotel receipts, the messages, the bracelet. I mailed copies to the woman's husband. Her address was easy enough to find. I imagined his face when he opened that envelope. How familiar his shock would feel. 2 marriages ending with one truth. I didn't want destruction. I wanted balance. And for the first time in months, I felt it. It didn't take long for everything to unravel. A week later, I heard through a mutual friend that Daniel had moved out of the house we once shared, dragging his boxes into a small apartment across town. He looked thinner, older, like life had finally caught up to him. The other woman's husband filed for divorce, too. I didn't celebrate it. I just noted it. The world, for once, correcting itself without my interference. Some people call it karma. I call it closure. I spent those days in quiet routines. Morning walks, coffee in real cups instead of rushed takeout mugs, music filling the silence that used to feel unbearable. I wasn't healing yet. Not completely. But I was breathing differently. Freely. There was power in knowing I hadn't lost control of my story, that I'd ended it on my terms. Daniel had taken my trust, but I'd kept my dignity. That, I realized, was the difference between losing and leaving. One afternoon, I found the bracelet again, tucked in the drawer where I'd left it after that dinner. I held it for a moment, feeling nothing at all. No rage, no sorrow, just distance. It had started everything, but it didn't define me anymore. I dropped it into a small box of things meant for donation, closed the lid, and smiled. Sometimes you don't need to destroy the past. You just need to stop carrying it. Months later, I found myself walking past the jewelry store again. The same display glimmered in the window. Gold, silver, tiny sparks of beauty behind glass. For a moment, I almost kept walking, but something pulled me in. The bell above the door chimed softly, and the same clerk looked up, surprised but polite. "Back for another gift?" he asked with that same easy smile. "Yes," I said, smiling back. "For myself this time. I chose a simple silver bracelet. Nothing extravagant, nothing loud, just elegant, quiet. It had a small engraving on the inside. One word, enough. When I slid it onto my wrist, it felt different. Not like decoration, but declaration. I wasn't marking pain anymore. I was marking peace. The clerk wrapped it carefully, unaware of the weight behind the moment, and wished me a good day. I almost laughed. It was. At home, I placed the new bracelet on the nightstand, the same spot where the golden one had once waited for me. The light caught it softly, but this time, it didn't mock me. It shimmered with something else, freedom. I looked at my reflection, older, wiser, steadier. He bought deceit, I thought. I bought closure. And as I turned off the light, I finally felt it. The quiet, complete kind of peace that doesn't need witnesses.